Hey, what's up, people? It's me again, Score the Engineer, and I'm coming back with another mix. This time, I'm not as far into this one as I was into the one from my first video, where I gave the overview of my clean mixing process. This one, I'm just past the organization stage. So to bring you up to speed on what I've done so far, remember, phase one is all about control. So included in phase one is organization, because you can't do much controlling of anything if you don't know where anything is. So I've gone ahead and taken the long way around to group everything into their groups. You'll see a lot of buses. So I have these two snares going to a bus, these hats going to a bus, these other various miscellaneous percussion going to a bus, and so on. I have my friend calls kicks the foot. So anyway, I have the kicks together, and then these are instruments. I have these going straight out to here. So, and all of these things, even my buses, these things get bussed, and then these buses get bussed to the beat stems bus. So basically, right here, if I wanted to hear the whole beat, I can come here and click solo, and it's going to play all those tracks together. And that's going to be for when I start leveling the beat out, right? Reset. So, and I can show you the benefit to that in a minute. Right now, I'm going to work on controlling the vocals. So I'm going to mute. I'm going to leave everything else muted. This is soloed. And so this allows me to just work on the vocals without having anything from the beat going in. This is the clean part of it, right? Because I have bussed these together, I can use one control to help me isolate what I'm working on. Furthermore, when I come over here to my sequencer window, wherever it's hiding, what's back here? Notice that all of these get muted as a result. These all get muted, and then I'm allowed to solo these individually, so I can listen for whatever they need. And if I ever want to come back and see where I stand, I can, like, let's say I have them all muted, certain ones soloed, as I'm comparing waveforms and takes, seeing which one's the best. Let's say I want to come back and I want to hear them. I got it structured and I want to hear them all together. I could just hit one button and hit play, and it's only going to play my vocals. It's not going to throw the beat in there. I don't ever have to worry about this interrupting the vocal part of this, of this particular project. Not while I'm listening and comparing and controlling and stuff. When I'm done and this all sounds good next to each other, I am happy with the signal that I've chosen from the files, and they all sound even and they all sound like they belong together. I am going to turn off the solo here, turn on the solo on the beat, and then I'm going to go through and start leveling the beat out. I'm not going to compress anything about this beat first. The first thing that I'm going to do is going to be strictly volume faders, okay? And I can already tell you the first thing that I'm going to do on this whole project. As a matter of fact, while you're watching, I'm going to do it right now. Okay? All of these are going to get treated the same. Do. All of those are part of the beat. This whole thing is coming down. If I can't hear at -20, then there's a problem. So we're gonna dial this in. If you didn't know, you can hold down the shift key in Reason, and it'll let you fine tune the volume just a little bit better. So we've set everything down to -20, but our buses are still set at 100. We're gonna be golden, and I'm gonna go ahead and set this one back. I don't know what I've done to it. Okay, so there's that. Over here, I'm actually gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna bring everything down. That's close enough. So now, why did I do this? First state of we're in clean mixing. I want to control, right? You can tell by those waveforms over here Some of these are loud as hell. I have no doubt that when all these sounds combine, look at the reference track they sent me. I have no doubt that when I get in here to edit these sounds, I'm gonna find some stuff that's clipping. And how do you know it's clipping? I'll show you. I'm gonna unmute one of these. This is the reference track they sent me. You see that flat edge? How the top of that is flat? Guarantee you that means something has gone over the resolvable threshold, 0 decibels or whatever, and it got clipped. So there's no data beyond that point. Luckily with the stems and the beat, that's not the issue. More than likely that was just something they had on the master bus, or it could be that no, something they had on the master bus. Something was just hitting too heavy and they didn't turn it down, or they didn't bring everything back into alignment. So since I know that this is already crushed at 0, I want to create headroom. So I address the issue of knowing that it's going to be over the threshold. It's going to be peaking. I address the peaking issue by bringing all the faders down. Now, when we go through and we listen to this whole thing, at least we have, that much more headroom to do what we're going to do to the overall track. So I'm kind of all over the place, but hopefully you can see how in phase 1, the only thing I'm doing is troubleshooting the problems that I noticed right away in the mix, right? And then I'm making a change to accommodate for that and that only. I don't care if the beat comes out low. Lowness is not an issue because when you're mixing and mastering, that's when loudness comes into play. So there's a phase for that. Right now, we're looking for problems, okay? So now that I've created headroom, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to scan my tracks, and I'm going to see that there is a lot of noise over here in the recording, okay? Now, wherever this was recorded at, the least they could have done is use the dim feature or the other features on their equipment to turn the beat down in the control booth so that the bass line doesn't bleed over into the recording booth. But when you're working with a lot of studios all over the country, a lot of amateur, non-professional environments. When I say non-professional, like areas where they not necessarily have a whole team or multiple rooms or a whole facility or whatever the case is. They just got a nice spot where they do music. Then this is going to be some stuff you're going to run into, especially if your recording engineer or your mixing engineer is not paying attention. So in this case, they weren't paying attention, or they didn't care about the amount of noise that was coming through. And here's why this is a problem. This is a problem in this particular case because you say, oh, well, you can go through and you can grab your razor tool and you could delete all that stuff. Yes, technically you're right. I could do that. But it's not just that cut and dry. I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. Let's go in and we can see right here on her main vocals, right? We can see the beat coming through in the headphones. If I were to set a noise gate, right, I could set a noise gate and save myself a bunch of time. But the problem is this: the noise that came through the headphone in certain areas is as loud as her actual vocals. You see that? Which means that if I went the noise gate approach with this, more than likely her voice is going to end up choppy. If I set a threshold high enough to remove this noise, it's going to remove other parts of her flow. So a noise gate is out of the question on this one. And another issue is going to be that whenever I layer these up, these frequencies, let's just say I kept a couple of these, I layered them up. If you can hear this kick drum at this stage of the mix, you can hear it throughout the verse. You better bet your ass you can hear it. All right. So knowing that's a problem, it tells me that I'm going to need to EQ. I'm going to need to EQ and box out the low end to thin out that sound as much as I possibly can, right? And maybe even use some other tricks to blend it in with the beat so that it doesn't stand out. I'm going to make sure I'm not going to use two main vocals up front for the risk of those frequencies overlapping and layering. I'm going to use one strong signal. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to clean it up. That's going to be my dominant one. And then everything else I use for support is going to be blended into the background. That way I don't have to worry about those kick drums getting layered up in all of these different takes. Okay. So you have, that looks like the first stage that needs to be treated with this. Second thing that needs to be treated with this is we can tell that this is very dynamic. It has very quiet parts and then very loud parts. You can tell by these spikes up here. This tells me that I need to compress it to control it, not necessarily compress it to give it any form of flavor or enhancement. So this is my overview of the work before me in a 10-minute video. I'm going to get to work. And then once I get done with phase 1, I'm going to come back and recap you and then tell you everything we're going to do in phase 2. So that's this video, and I'll see you in the future.